Well, that reminds me, I got to go to the DMV too before my birthday.
All right. So, good afternoon, John.
Hi, Marty Keller.
John Donovan, down in Oceanside, California. Marty Keller here in Sacramento. And welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Intentional Living podcast, where we take a look at identifying and then breaking patterns of behavior that we may find ourselves compulsively engaged in, even think in our minds, I don't want to be doing this, and we do it anyway. And or conversely, we may have a behavior that we think we should engage in, and we don't do it.
Correct.
I should do this. I should get up and do my morning exercises. Okay, and then I don't. So,
Yeah, what's up with that? It's like I'm an
so
exercise.
what we've been talking about here, I think we're now in our sixth year, celebrating 6 years doing this podcast. Is
Wow.
is
Good.
or maybe 5 years. Sorry, 5 years. We started this, I think, during COVID, so that was 5 years ago. So we've been talking about the same thing for 5 years. How do we,
Yeah.
first of all, identify those patterns of behavior, and how do we uh, ultimately befriend them and use the energy that created them in the first place to create something else? And
Correct.
that's what we talk about here. That's what we share here, our experiences. My friend and mentor, John, developed what we call the intentional living practice over the course of the last 25, 30 years. And John and I met about 12, 13 years ago, and I started to follow the practice. That actually did some group work with you for 3 years. So it was a great laboratory for learning. And
Hmm.
and now here we are in 2025, continuing to learn. As we were chatting just before we started, hit the record button, um, that this learning experience that we're engaged in is ongoing,
Hmm.
unending.
And
And I think we talked about this in several podcasts quite a while ago about how, and this is particular, I want to raise this for the newcomer, how when we first start this work, I certainly dealt with a whole lot of resistance. How many times did it come around time to go to a meeting and I don't really want to go. Can I find an excuse to get out of the way? If I don't go, will the group forgive me and still like me?
yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah. Me too.
even sitting in a meeting and having that going on, I don't really want to be here. I'll listen to that jerk talk and la la la.
Yeah, yeah. I remember those days.
Yeah. And then over time, how that morphs into I can't wait to be at the meeting. Oh, I wonder who'll be here. I wonder what I'll talk about. Uh, so
Hmm.
learning to befriend all of the what may have appeared before the disparate, rebellious parts of myself, learning how to befriend them and then start living in harmony with my inner experience.
Yeah. And
And
the beginner hears it the first time, if it, like a beginner in 12 step, in step 11, where it says, thought through prayer medication increased my conscious contact with my higher power, seeking only the will of his life and the power to carry it out. Um, in my life and the power to carry it out. That's the answer that is difficult to hear and impossible to do with any effort on my part.
although to be frank, it takes a lot of time to learn the truth of what you just said.
Exactly. And that's why we've been doing this for 6 years, talking about the same thing in a different way
Sure.
each time, because every week I grow and then I add that to
Right.
the discourse and I understand more.
Well, I think that you even start your meetings with that insight. If I remember rightly, when you raised the questions, have you ever found yourself in an argument and realized you were in the wrong, and you kept arguing anyway,
Yeah.
um, and you eventually get to the assertion that everything you know, think, or do is an obstacle to your happiness or getting what you want, and then You freak everybody out because you say, and everything you don't do, think, or know is also an obstacle to what you want.
Yeah, anything you choose not to think or say
Right.
or do is part of that obstacle. And it's like, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That's everything. Oh, wait a minute, I'm screwed. Take a breath. Yeah. What does that feel like? What's the feeling? That's what Einstein said. Of course, he wasn't referring to trauma work, but that's the way out. You cannot solve a problem with the consciousness that created the problem, no matter how hard you try. You must find something new. And what's the new? It's the silence and the feeling tone that adds to your experience, that gives you, and you notice a difference in everything you think, say, do, and choose not saying, not say, do, or choose not to think, say, do. And that is the way out now. We just set up our next 30 minutes of conversation to do the best with words that can explain that, to explain that. It's like, nice deep breath. Okay. And then, show up next week and we'll say the same thing. Um, and I don't want to speak for you, but I want to offer, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. This new place is where we now live from.
Well, and not only that, but what the reason I raised it is because that process that you just outlined continues. And
Continues. Yeah.
so after 13 years of doing the accountability practice, I'm sitting here in this conversation with you, open to something new.
Yes.
As now my default position, where in my living in the consciousness of my wounded little child, I was open to nothing new.
Correct.
I was into controlling as best I can, controlling my inner and then exterior environment in a vain attempt to feel safe. And now I have safety. I've already,
And that's what I understand.
yeah, and
Go ahead.
now I've created safety along with my higher power, so I feel adventurous instead of
Yeah,
defensive.
right. And everything I was doing before was defending what I knew, for my survival, and I didn't know that that was happening from the old information. And what I would do before I got was try harder and either berate myself for being stupid or not as good as somebody else, or how could they get it and I'm not getting it, and yeah, and that defensiveness is a survival technique that believes it's keeping me safe, which is only reinforcing what I already know, which is what I knew before that, or actually was in my subconscious, that nobody's safe. People will backstab you. Um, don't be a nice guy because nice guys finish last. All this stuff. And for me in my early recovery, it was frustrating. I felt a lot of frustration in progress, or um, continuing to pick the same type of people to befriend or be in relationship with, and wondering, well, it can't be me. It's like, look, all these people are consistent. And the only consistent thing in all my relationships was me. That was the only consistent thing. So I gave up. I gave up, and I want to go back to the concepts of the steps. I simply made the decision to, I'm going to say, to continue. I made the decision to heal, even though I didn't know the how of healing. I made the decision to heal. And that decision um, enlisted and mustered all the invisible means of support around me to, I want to say, nurture and guide me through this process to where I come now. And I, I can explain to you, I can say where I'm at, and as I say it, it's completely inadequate to really define the experience of where I'm at. Um, and therein lies the reason for us doing this for 6 years. Is because I never know when I'm going to say whatever it is I'm saying that somebody else's light bulb goes on and like, oh, and what I hear them that really excites me the most is when somebody is in this process with me of examining our behavior and our motivations is the word wow. Oh, wow. It's like that explains everything I can't explain because there's a movement inside, a feeling tone, a growth, a healing, which makes no sense to the rational mind.
Right. Well, just backing up a little bit to the tenacity of that inner control uh, defense mechanism. Does
Yep.
that not explain? It kind of does for me, but see what you think. Doesn't that explain why most of us have to have some kind of we have to be backed into some kind of corner, or we have to be laid low before we'll take up that decision to heal, to get better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we
because
have examples of
because
it.
because that defense mechanism is so strong. It's like I can quit. Like if the initial challenge is drinking, I can quit. I can quit anytime I want. How much? So it takes like a DUI, or it takes you hit your partner, or you did something that was unforgivable, and it's like, all right, I can't do this anymore.
Right. And we have the example that comes to me from the Bible is when Jacob wrestled with the angel all night long. He wrestled. He's gonna like it, and then the angel touched him on the thigh, and he dropped. And it's like, okay, I don't know. Oh, cool. Now you become teachable. You have no power in this, and it that subconscious wounding necessarily to heal it, it needs the power of the subconscious to heal it. And that's in either noticing, feeling, embodying a feeling state, um, which is what is the wow. It's like, oh my God. One of my revelations was in this relationship example I said was when I got, oh my God, it's me. It's, oh, it's me. Oh, it's like, oh, okay. I'm the only consider. Oh, wow. I'm, I'm, um, well, what I want to say is I'm screwed. I have I surrender. I remember that with my smoking cessation. I knew that it was killing me. I could feel it. And I knew I couldn't stop. And no matter how hard I tried, no matter what rationale I came up with, even my own death wasn't good enough for me to stop the behavior. And I remember the moment I give up. Okay. I'm done. I surrender. And then I broke through to what I now know to be imagination, inspiration, intuition, which said, go to this class, which I honestly believe wouldn't work. And I went anyway. And that began the process of my letting go of nicotine or cigarette smoking.
Well, another thing so I want us to notice what you actually implied in what you just said. A few minutes ago, you said that when you made the decision to heal or get relief or get better, whatever the verbiage is, that the invisible means of support showed up.
Yes.
And that I want to point out to the newcomer is that the invisible means of support very quickly became visible means of support, whether it's a class, a group meeting, a therapist, a religious, spiritual person. We
Right.
don't do this alone, and it's our instinct. See, our instinct before was, I'm going to do this on my own. And
Yeah.
that's partly what brought us to our knees, is because we
Yeah.
can't.
No.
And so the minute we say we can't, or like you said, I give up, which I said also, I give up. I don't know what to do. Help me. The invisible means of support led us to some visible place of
Outcome.
recovery.
Yeah.
And
It led us to
so it led
relief.
us, yes. And in a process where, for me, the most effective one has been in the group setting.
Yeah.
So I'm in a group meeting with fellow sufferers. If it's an AA meeting, I'm in a meeting with fellow alcoholics. If I'm in an adult children of alcoholics meeting, I'm in a meeting of fellow ACAers. If I'm in an intentional living meeting, I'm in a meeting of intentional recoverers, whatever. It's like I don't have to do this on my own. I
No.
can just show up in a meeting and be present and see what happens.
Yeah.
See what I'm moved to do, I'm moved to share. I might be moved to, and how many times have we sat in a meeting where we witnessed, or we did it ourselves, we witnessed a sharing of some deep, dark, shameful secret that the person was holding on to out of fear of total rejection and abandonment,
Right.
and just gave up and shared it. And rather than having the feared reaction, which is they're going to kick me out now. Now they're going to kick me out.
Yeah.
The reaction was the opposite. And everybody in some group meeting cultures might even applaud. And so we feel
Yeah.
that relief,
Yeah.
that's new. That emotional state that you're talking about is now new to
Yeah.
me. It's like it's a new it's a
Yeah.
new input that changes everything, even if I can't explain it in the moment.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. This, um, Technicon, no, Eckhart Tolle wrote The Power of Silence or the Healing. I forget the name of the book, but he said, that's all you need to know, that silence is the healer. And you can read on it if you want, but you don't need to read anymore. You know everything. And of course, I chose to read on because I needed an explanation of what he was telling me instead of actually doing it. One of the jokes in the ACA when I first got there is that an adult child of alcoholics walking down the hallway, and on the right he sees a door that says heaven, and on the left he sees a door that says lecture on heaven. So, oh, I'm going to go into the lecture and instead of going into heaven, which is, yeah, that made me laugh because, yeah, I need to know where I'm going before I go there, which I can't know. Uh,
We're not at that
it's new.
level.
No. Uh, and that's the level I went in. I'm gonna do this right, which was my first mistake, is believing that there was a right way to do it instead of a way or my way or the way. I had to get the right one. And that kept me. One of the things I say is, especially when somebody is, and they're sincere, I want to know. I want to know. I want to understand what you're saying. Well, that's the biggest block to embodying what I'm saying is the need to understand it before you get there. And that was the trauma or the admonition of my parents or what I perceived to be my guardians was to act like an adult. Come on. It's like, it's so easy, John. I mean, and I would then go, okay, I believe there's something I could do to make it different. And that was the lie.
Yeah. But it's very human. It's very human because
Yeah.
we're I don't know if it's right to say we're addicted, but we're certainly enamored of the shortcut. We're always
Well,
looking for
that's
the
what that,
shortcut.
yeah.
And so it stands a reason that when we first get into recovery that we're going to be looking for the shortcut. And
Yeah.
because that's our natural orientation. And so you get into your first meeting, and you've described this on the podcast many times. Your first AA meeting, when you said, "Hi, my name is John. I'm an alcoholic," and people welcomed you and maybe even applauded you, and you had this sense of, "I'm coming back."
Right.
Um,
That was, yeah.
right. And after you had that sense, there was still work to do. It wasn't done. And you may
No,
actually,
no.
I certainly did. It's like, oh, once I had my breakthrough, okay, I don't have to do anything else. I'm done. I'm washed clean.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was a shock to
Yes.
find out that, it's just that I have to go through, I don't want to say have to. I was facing more blood, sweat, and tears. And mostly because my explanation, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, is because the depth of the trauma that I experienced as a little boy, as a little child, and the way it wired my psyche and wired the brain, the neurological system that controlled the psyche, was of such magnitude that there's just a lot that needs to be done to effectuate a rewiring.
Yes.
And so that it took me a while to learn that patience was really that old phrase that patience is a virtue was really powerfully applicable to the recovery process. And I think that's a reason why a lot of people don't stick with it
Yeah.
because it does take time and we will, I certainly did, encounter painful memories, painful experiences, painful recalls on the road to healing all of the energy that was holding on to those.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and what the wounding seated was put in place by repetition.
Right.
Over and over again, I perceived I was told I didn't know how to do it right and that I needed to figure out how to do it right. Whether it was getting an A compared to a C or D. Um, and even when I got what they were saying right, it was still empty.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Well, I don't know about you, but I would tell myself, oh, that was just luck.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would sidestep the thought that I was anything but incapable.
Right.
Um, and I really didn't understand why I would sidestep it. Now I do because it didn't fit the belief and that I came to based on the trauma. The trauma was reinforced every minute of a major part of my life, which was my childhood and preteen, teen years. And for me, 20s, 30s, 40s, of recreating the trauma over and over, which kept proving to me that there was something wrong with me or that everybody else I was right about they're attacking me or they don't care or they'll stab me in the back or people are dangerous. So,
Well, we got about 5 minutes to go before we
oh
need to
wow.
wrap up. So let's start. I'd like to see if you'd be willing to start then, based on what we've been discussing,
Yeah.
particularly for the newcomer, to explain how, in a nuts and bolts kind of way, how the accountability practice helps us change all of that.
Okay.
And then in the next podcast, maybe we can go into that in greater detail, but maybe just a quick overview to wrap up and then like I said, we'll get into it more deeply next time.
hmm my first experience of that was going to um, a violence intervention class and I wasn't mandated or court ordered, and I thought I was volunteering. And the actual reason I went there is because the person I was in relationship with said, "I'm not going to be with you anymore if you don't like look at this." And so, okay, so I went to the meeting or the class thinking, well, I could probably help these guys because I have 10 years of recovery. And
Well, so this was after you'd already been in AA for 10 years.
yeah, yeah, well,
Okay.
ACA mostly, yeah,
Okay,
and
ACA.
AA. The guy started the class was saying that this is a class for violent people, and he explained violence on an emotional, verbal, and physical level. And I thought, oh my God. And he said emotional violence or coercion is dismissing somebody, redefining their reality, or ignoring somebody. And I thought, oh my God, I do that all the time. I'm violent. So I stayed. So I got out of denial about my violence and the extent of it. And then he said probably a lot of things, but what I heard was accountability is the way out. And I thought, oh my, I felt this flush through my body. He is, he is showing me the way to my enlightenment. And I didn't understand that rationally. I felt that in what I call my heart sense. And I stayed. And then it took a while. That class was again repeating the same thing over and over and over, and then me practicing being accountable for dismissing somebody, which before I thought was, well, that's no, it's they're wrong, and I'm going to make sure they know that they're wrong. That's not dismissal. That's telling the truth. I had that all mixed up, and then when I saw that it was dismissive, yeah, I oh my God, okay, I made the decision to be physically violent free. It took me a year in the class to realize that even though I was going to the class, I hadn't made the decision to be emotionally and verbally violent free. I was, I don't know, it's a 52-week class, and I was somewhere in the 60-week place, and I was being accountable for the verbal violence, which was raising my voice and threatening for the purpose of control. And the facilitator said, John, you come in here every week and being accountable from the verbal violence for the verbal violence you do. And I thought he was going to give me kudos, like, oh,
Right.
good job, John. And then he said, have you ever thought about quitting, stopping? And a little voice in my head said, no, you don't know this woman. And I got it. Oh my God. Oh, that's when I made the decision to be emotionally and verbally violent free. And all the stuff I was doing before that was again trying to be good or trying to do it right instead of making the decision to give up my defenses, what I thought were I would keep myself safe by keeping people away from me. And that was all subconscious. When it became conscious, oh, okay, no, I really don't want to be violent free because oh, shoot. Uh, then that, wow, oh my God. And then I made the decision and things started changing. I came to notice things different based on that decision. Um, the decision before that was to be physically violent free, which was no problem. Except for the way he divided physically violent free. And I know we're getting close to time, was being physically violent around, which is like hitting the table when I'm speaking or standing up and posturing in a aggressive way. That's also physical violence around. So um, I had a feeling tone that this man, and this man's name was Pete, was offering me a way out. I didn't know what it was. But I just stayed. I actually stayed there like 80 weeks because of the resistance inside me, really not wanting to give up my violence until I realized, oh, oh my God. So
Okay,
That's why, yeah,
that's a
we'll get into the
teaser.
why later. There
That's
you go.
a teaser, folks. We're going to pick this up in the next meeting and explore this in greater detail. So, because John, what I want to do is offer the newcomer an insight into just what the heck we're talking about here
Yeah,
from as practical a perspective as we can. So you just shared with us the practical, this is what happened, experience, and then I want to talk in our next week about, what happens in an accountability practice meeting. What can I expect in a meeting, and how do you run the meeting, and how does one work on the things that you worked on in that violence cessation
yeah,
meeting that you were just sharing with us. So stay tuned, folks. In the meantime, if you'd like to check this out for yourself, there are 4 accountability practice meetings every week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, different times. All the information on how you can participate in a meeting will be available at the end of the podcast. They're all on Zoom, so no matter where you are in the world, you can participate, and you're invited to come and learn about this from your own experience. You get to hear us talk about it, but as John was saying, there ain't nothing like experiencing it for yourself. So
yeah.
with that, John, thank you very much, and we'll see
You're
you next
welcome.
week.
You got it, Marty.